Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, as you join us for this next online worship service for First Parish Church of Kingston, Massachusetts. I am the Reverend Monica Jacobson-Tennyson. I use she, her pronouns. This is our Director of Family Ministry, Jen Shattuck. Today's service will be the last service we film in our beautiful meeting house for a while. So as you take in this video, we invite you to also soak up this space in which we usually gather. And remember that this time too shall pass. We will gather in person again when it is safer to do so. But for now, we are leaning into the truth that church is not where you go. Church is what you do. So wherever you are still a part of this church. You can still live our values and create this religious community as little points of light in each place in which you find yourselves. Now, please join with us in singing our introit, "What We Need Is Here," knowing that wherever here is for you today, you have what you need. We light this chalice as a reminder. The flame is different every time, and in these times we kindle separate flames. Yet the flame is the same each time, and all our separate flames remind us of this community and our shared light. Please join with us in singing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Watching a lot of movies this week and reading a lot of books. It's been something we're feeling really drawn to. Is that true for your family too?
Yeah, for us too. We've been watching movies and reading things. And we asked some of you on Facebook if there were stories that have been coming to mind for you, and especially stories that you're thinking of when we say the hero's journey. And some of you said Harry Potter and The Lion King and Goonies and Finding Nemo and lots and lots of different Disney ideas. And Jen and I have been thinking about that. It's not just that Disney Plus is available for streaming now. There's probably another reason that we're watching lots of these movies at this time.
That's true. I was thinking about it this week, and I was thinking that all of these movies have something in common, which is they start with something really bad happening, or a loss happening, a death, or something else happens that causes people to go off and get help and learn new things. And that's kind of similar to what's happening now.
Yeah, in all those stories, daily life is interrupted by something really, really different. And it's usually something kind of scary and kind of sad. But then as the story goes on, some good things happen too. All of the characters in the stories have some adventures, they meet some new friends, they learn that they can be brave and kind and strong in ways that they didn't know before.
That's right. And this is one of the things, telling ourselves stories during this time can be a really helpful way to have us understand what's happening. I've been thinking of myself on a little bit of a journey like that. What is my life going to be like now in this new time? I'm not sure, but there's a possibility I could make some new friends. There's a possibility I could learn new things.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot too. We're all on this big journey together, even though we're spending a lot of time separate from other people. And we are finding new ways to connect and new things to do. And every time there's a story about a hero's journey, things are different at the end. And we know that things are going to be different after this time. So the question is, what do we want to learn on this journey so that the different world is a better world for everybody? Please join with us in singing hymn number 295, Sing Out Praises for the Journey. We will share our joys and sorrows together on Zoom on Sunday mornings. So for today, we have lit candles to represent what we will share, what we have shared in conversations, what we know to be true in our hearts, and what we carry for the world. We light some of these candles for the most vulnerable people who are at risk in so many ways, for healthcare providers who are answering the call to help and heal even as they expose themselves to infection, For those who work in what we now know are essential jobs, stocking grocery shelves, delivering orders, and cleaning spaces. For folks who work in retail and restaurants and hospitality and events, who are feeling the impact of lost work. For people who are unhoused or imprisoned or otherwise made vulnerable by their circumstances. And for so many others who need love and care in these times. We light some candles also in gratitude for all the vulnerable helpers, for scientists all over the world working to understand this virus, for the generosity of all who are making and donating masks and other protective equipment, for everyone who is helping to make the world even a little bit safer, and for all our brave hearts, meeting this world as it comes, again, every day. Please join with me in a spirit of prayer or meditation or reflection, whatever practice is best for you, as we share these words from the Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen, titled, "For When I Really Don't Want to Learn This." Spirit, I would really rather not learn this. Didn't think I needed to. I thought someone else could do it. Thought a leader was coming to do it. Thought the young people could do it, or the elders could do it, or the professionals. Or I don't want to learn it because it means letting go of something I hold dear. Letting go of being someone who knows the answers. Letting go of being someone who doesn't know. Letting go of the way I see the world. Letting go of how I might have to change. Letting go of certainty, of facts, of logic, of control, of the myth that you can live on this earth and not harm, or the myth that I can't learn anything new. Help me to learn it, please. And then help me to live what I learned and do right by the gift of being taught. May it be so.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, I sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, are we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding thee, hail the great winds urging ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
This morning's reading is from This Is Not the Apocalypse You Were Looking For by Lori Penny. Right now, with over a third of the world on some sort of lockdown, with the entire world going through some version of the same crisis at once, we are suddenly frantic to touch one another. It seems more important to reconnect with friends. It seems more important than ever to be sweet and silly. We all know someone who's stuck in a house by themselves, trying not to go bonkers. We all know someone who's stuck in a house with someone awful, trying to survive the hotboxing of an already toxic relationship. And many of us, by now, know someone who's sick. In this time, my job will be the same as yours and everyone else's: to be kind, to stay calm, and to take care of whoever happens to need taking care of in my immediate vicinity. We have been living for many, many years in what Gramsci called a time of monsters, where the old is dying and the new cannot be born. The new is now being induced in a hurry, because after this, nothing is going back to normal. It's the end of the world as we know it, and everything does feel fine. Not fine like chill, but fine like china, like glass, like thread. Everything feels so fine and so fragile and so shockingly worth saving.
A colleague who serves as a chaplain in a major hospital told some of us about a week and a half ago that a major theme in her conversations with patients right now was blame. Folks are blaming government leaders for mishandling national pandemic responses. They're blaming their neighbors who aren't staying home and social distancing. They're blaming themselves for not being careful enough. They're blaming God. She asked those of us who are serving in congregations, and therefore who must take time each week to wrestle theologically with the truth of the world, to see what we had to say about blame. Theology is something I understand not just as the study of God, but more than that. The study and the contemplation of how to make meaning of our lives, with or without God in the equation. How we tell ourselves the story of our lives and what lessons we find there. In the first weeks of this pandemic, we've seen some versions of the story that involve God. God is punishing all of humanity for the misbehavior of some group of people. These people might be world leaders, or they might be a marginalized community. Probably, whoever they are, they're some ones that the storyteller doesn't particularly care for. When I encounter these stories, I think about the folks I know who have observed, isn't it interesting how whenever someone claims that God is on a certain side, God always seems to share the opinions of the person speaking? And that is not how God works. God doesn't conveniently share all of our political opinions and biases. Or to answer the classic spiritual direction question, where is God in this? I begin by saying, God doesn't send viruses to punish all of us for the behavior of some of us, no matter who you put in each category. In other versions of the story, the earth itself is punishing all of humanity for living so unsustainably. People have crafted pithy Facebook memes that read, "What if we are the virus and the earth is getting rid of us to finally get well?" Or the gentler version that reads, "Mother Earth just sent all of us to our rooms." When I hear these stories, I am reminded of Robin Wall Kimmerer's words in Braiding Sweetgrass, when she writes about surveying her general ecology students about the relationship between humans and nature She asks them to name how humans benefit from nature, and they have so many ideas. She asks them to name how nature benefits from humans, and they are silent. These students, who are preparing for careers in environmental protection, cannot imagine what beneficial relations between their species and others might look like. Kimmerer's book, however, provides plenty of examples of beneficial relations between humans and other species, of animals and plants, grounded in scientific and in traditional ways of knowing. We are one species amongst many. And while we have an outsized impact on the world, we are not a virus or anything to be gotten rid of. The third wave of stories I've seen are about what this virus is teaching us. Essays and poems have started circulating, saying that the virus is here to teach us to slow down, to listen to each other, to stop consuming and start creating, to be still, to care for each other. None other than the Reverend Dr. William Barber II, one of our foremost religious leaders in 21st century America, tweeted, "This virus is teaching us that from now on, living wages, guaranteed health care for all, unemployment and labor rights are not far left issues, but issues of right versus wrong and life versus death." This story doesn't make sense to me either. First, viruses are only kind of alive as we understand life. They are packets of RNA wrapped in lipids and studded with proteins. There is no consciousness or intent there. They mutate randomly, and sometimes those mutations make them more contagious or less contagious. Sometimes those mutations make them more dangerous to humans, and sometimes they make them as minor an ailment as the common cold. Second, we have to return to the problem that the harm done by this supposed lesson is immense and, as usual, is disproportionately landing on folks who are already marginalized and vulnerable. All these stories say to me that we are looking for a bigger narrative to find ourselves in. We want this to be part of a plan that someone has. We want someone to be in charge. That someone might be God or the earth or a strangely benevolent but also deadly virus. But any story that truly makes sense of this has to be large enough to encompass all that is. In order to tell a story of God or the earth or the virus having an intentional plan, we have to say that this plan, this massive undertaking to punish bad behavior or to teach good behavior, includes the suffering and the death of thousands of people, many of them already more vulnerable to suffering and death, and less responsible for political decisions and carbon emissions. My colleague, Reverend Karen Madrone, modified a quote from Irving Greenberg to say that no statement, theological or otherwise, should be made that will not be credible in the presence of people who are vulnerable to the coronavirus. We will sacrifice no one to this disease. Which puts us in a pickle, doesn't it? Here we are, we humans, the quintessential meaning-making, storytelling creatures, struggling to tell a good story that helps us to understand what's happening now. Because the problem is that we are still in the middle of the story. And we are working so very hard to wrest a lesson from it, to make a path through the woods that teaches us to be brave and kind. The hero's journey is about being called out of your regular life, where things are predictable and safe. And when you are called out, you are asked to do hard things in order to make a better future for yourself and your community. As the hero, you have to answer the call to find a mentor who will help you, sometimes. You have to face tests and trials and enemies, possibly with magical aid and often with new friends. You have to lose friends, to lose hope, lose your way, grieve, find your strength again, find your way again, to come at last to the battle with the biggest villain or the hardest challenge, and then to realize that you are different now, and you don't know how to go home again. And finally, to learn, with the help of your new friends, how to live in both the old and the new worlds. Appealing, right? Because if you are the hero, you aren't being punished for anything. It's your job to save everyone because you are the most special. The story of this pandemic doesn't map onto the hero's journey that closely, though, because it's not just the story of one person or one small group. It's a story we're all sharing. But it's certainly a story about having to do hard, strange things, having to ask for help, having to keep going while feeling fear and grief, having to recognize how important our relationships are, having to realize that we are being changed and many things will be different now. Here's part of how I'm telling myself this story. Process theology, which is kind of like if you mash up physics and religion, says that things are always happening. They aren't good or bad in and of themselves, these tiny moments that string together to make up life. They're just moments. Time is moving, atoms are vibrating, stuff happens. But there are consequences to the things that happen, but not some grand intent. So process theology says, look, no one sent this virus. The virus is not teaching us a lesson, but because we are creatures who try to make sense of things, we can still learn from experiences. When Reverend Dr. William Barber says that the virus is teaching us about the value of living wages, guaranteed health care for all, and unemployment and labor rights, I hear him saying that when we tell ourselves the story of this time, in this pandemic, we will tell ourselves that these are the moments when we learned how important it is to build a society that takes care of everyone. When I read those Facebook posts about the lessons of this time, I read them as reminders. Here is a moment. You get to choose what you will do with it. Will you be grateful for the insistent coming of spring to this good green earth? Will you choose to be kind to yourself and others? Will you be still and feel your feelings and be present to everyone around you? Will you choose to be generous? Will you take your life and make of it a blessing again and again? And where is God in this? Monica Coleman, an African-American womanist and process theologian, writes this: In process theology, everything that happens is a product of the past, what's possible, and what we do with those things. God is what offers the possibilities. God is a name for the vision of the world of more justice and peace and love. God is a name for the pull that we feel toward that vision. The past is what it is. It has already happened. It can't be changed, although it can certainly be learned from. The present is unfolding, moment after moment, sometimes surprising and unexpected. Some moments are terrible. They contain suffering, fear, loss, pain. Some moments shine with beauty and love and the possibility of a world made more just and an earth made more cherished. We get to contribute our little bits to the next moments, the ones that haven't come yet, through the choices that we make now. On this journey, we are still in the woods, maybe headed into the cave, beginning to experience the losses of some of our companions because of the challenges of this quest, and maybe feeling simple homesickness for the way life was. We can't see the ending yet, or know exactly how we will be changed, although we know we will be. Of course, we're trying to tell the whole story already. We are impatient for the day we understand the whole journey, but we can't rush this no matter how we want to. Unfolding takes time. We are not on this journey alone. Instead, we are all on this journey together, having strange experiences within our daily lives, feeling afraid and angry and hopeless, but also hopeful and brave and empowered, learning new skills and habits, learning to help each other. As often as we can, may we notice our opportunities to choose. We choose how we tell this story. We choose what we learn from it. We choose how we conduct ourselves on this journey. May we choose to be gentle with the mistakes that we and others make. May we choose to be brave enough to let others help us. May we choose to prioritize kindness and justice and to be truly present in these moments as often as we can. May it be so. Please join in singing hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere.
There
chalice at home, you are invited now to join in extinguishing it. We extinguish this flame, but not the light. The light we shall create separately and together at a distance until we gather in person again. Please join in singing our benediction.
With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the Lord. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the Lord.
In this time, may you bless the world by staying home, washing your hands, caring for your heart, and making the connections that you need for this journey. Be well. I love you.